if I were an astronomer at that time, I would have looked at the sky every night and I would have thought, am I going to be the first person to see this comet? Is it really coming back?
On Christmas Day 1758, Halley's comet returns. Its predicted appearance spectacularly vindicates Newton's theory of gravity.
He might well have watched apples fall from a tree, but what was much more significant is that he watched a comet flying through the sky in 1680 and 1681. And it was that comet that inspired him to formulate the great mathematical law of gravity that ties the universe together.
Sadly, neither Newton nor Halley lived to witness the returning comet. But their interest in these fiery apparitions changes the way we understand the universe forever.
From then on, it was absolutely impossible for astrologers to say that the appearance of a comet heralds some incredibly significant disaster. From then on, the comets were part of the universe. They'd been taken in within the clockwork mechanism of nature.
Astronomers have learned a great deal more about comets since Newton and Halley. They come from beyond the realm of the planets. They formed billions of years ago during the formation of the solar system. And their icy centers carry a cocktail of chemicals. Now, ISON heralds an exciting new chapter in our understanding of comets. But despite all we've learned, comets can still cast dark spells. Spring, 1997. The Earth is treated to a spectacular comet. One of the brightest in many years. Hale-Bopp.
It came very slowly because it was quite far away from the sun. And it moved very slowly and it stayed for weeks, actually. You could see it all the time.
But for a group of people in San Diego, Hale-Bopp triggers a sinister series of events.
If I would title this tape, it would be Last Chance to Evacuate Planet Earth Before It is Recycled.
The Heaven's Gate cult think Hale-Bopp signals the end of the Earth. To escape, the members believe they must board a spacecraft concealed behind the comet's tail. But it requires a grisly sacrifice. The members of the cult commit mass suicide. In all, 39 bodies are discovered.
So I find amazing to realize that people still got this reaction to these apparitions of comets in the sky.
October the 2nd, 2013. Just over a year after its discovery, ISON is now within 350 million kilometers of the sun. Now the comet is close enough for astronomers on Earth to get their first detailed look at its composition. Astronomer Adam McKay is traveling to an observatory in the mountains of New Mexico on his way to observe Comet Ison.
So we're heading up to Apache Point Observatory to use the 3.5-meter telescope there to obtain spectra of Comet Ison.
Perched high in the Sacramento Mountains, Apache Point is treated to some of the clearest skies in the United States.
Every observation for a comet is unique. It's changing its distance from the sun, changing distance from the Earth, and that really makes every observation very important.
Adam's one of the first astronomers to use spectroscopy with an Earth-based telescope to observe Ison's coma, the gaseous atmosphere surrounding its icy nucleus.
One of the things we're really hoping to measure from the spectra we get tonight is the water production rate of Comet Ison.
next few hours, he tracks ISON, analyzing its glowing gases.
So here's a spectrum of Comet Ison that we were just able to obtain. Basically, the actual spectrum is all these bright rows that you see here going across.
ISON spectra might not look like much, but with a trained eye, Adam makes an important discovery.
One of the things we're really interested in is this bright spot right here, and that corresponds to atomic oxygen that is present in the comet.
Oxygen is one of the two elements making up water. And Adam's discovery suggests the nucleus of ISON is gushing water vapor as it continues to warm up.
This is one of the very first detections of water in this comet.
It means that when ISON formed, water must have been present.
This is material that, when the solar system formed 4.6 billion years ago, gets incorporated into comets and has basically been locked in a time capsule ever since.
The discovery that ISON contains water adds weight to an incredible theory that might answer one of the biggest mysteries about our own planet.
There's a lot of water in the world today, but what we think is that the early Earth was created as quite a dry world. So the question is, where did that water come from?
The answer may lie with comets like ISON.
The chances of the Earth being hit by a comet today are, thankfully, quite slim. But it wasn't always like that. And billions of years ago, in the early solar system, when our world had first formed, the rate of comets pummeling down onto the surface of the inner planets would have been much, much higher.
The evidence for these cataclysmic collisions is closer than you think. The moon's ancient surface preserves the scars of craters and vast impact basins. Many formed around 4 billion years ago, when comet impacts were far more frequent.
The moon is like a pristine record of what would have been happening back on the Earth at the same time, but the dynamic surface of our world has erased any evidence that period once happened.
The Earth was also subjected to this intense bombardment, thought to have lasted for millions of years. Astronomers calculate an average-sized comet carries millions of tons of water. Many thousands of them, impacting Earth, might have delivered the oceans that cover our world today. But spectroscopy reveals something even more intriguing. Comets carry molecules necessary for life.
What's even more incredible is these comets are full, we now realize, of organic compounds, the building blocks of life on Earth. Not only would they have been delivering water to fill our oceans and give the wet stuff for life to get started in, but they would have been helping build up this reservoir of the building blocks for life as well.
It's only a theory, but it's a profound thought. We may owe our existence to comets like ISON. November 19th, 2013. ISON is about to experience the most perilous part of its 4.5 billion year life. Streaking past Mercury, it's just days away from its sun-grazing encounter.
Sun-grazing comets like to live dangerously, and it's an open question as to whether or not something this cold and icy can survive a passage by the sun.
The next week will be make or break for the comet. Will it be destroyed by the ferocity of the sun, or will it survive? The immense power of our sun is a force to be reckoned with. Solar scientist Alex Young at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center knows ISON is in for the ride of its life.
These images are showing us the surface of the sun and its outer atmosphere called the corona in extreme ultraviolet light.
The corona is heated to over 2 million degrees and twisted by super strong magnetic fields. Comets venture here at their peril.
You can see here these lines which are tracing out magnetic fields. This is what ISON will be passing through.
The magnetic fields can twist and violently snap, causing explosive solar flares.
You see these bright flashes here. These are solar flares that are releasing huge amounts of energy.
As ISON passes around the sun, it will feel the full force of the solar maelstrom.
Standing on the surface of ISON, you would be feeling all of this material that's boiling away, blasting out into space. You would be feeling the intense radiation from the sun, the unbelievable gravitational forces pulling underneath you, magnetic fields slamming into you, just an incredibly harsh and hostile environment.
November the 28th, 2013. This will be D-Day for Comet Ison, its encounter with the sun. And for our scientists, it's the day they'll learn ISON's fate. They've narrowed it down to a number of likely scenarios.
So there are several things that could happen to Comet Ison on its passage in towards the sun.
One scenario deals with the intense solar radiation.
This is a big risk for a comet, because if those ices, if too many of those get vaporized away, the comet is just going to fall apart. It's going to dissipate into its constituent parts and just fade away out of sight.
If this happens, we'll lose sight of ISON forever. Another scenario deals with the sun's immense gravity.
The gravitational pull of the sun is going to stretch the comet, and if the comet is just not structurally strong enough, it could just get completely ripped apart.
That's what happened to comet Shoemaker-Levy 9 in 1994, when it strayed too close to Jupiter. The giant planet's gravity tore it into 21 fragments. If the sun does the same to ISON, we could be treated to a spectacular sight on Earth. But there is hope for ISON.
So the final scenario for Comet Ison is that it actually survives. It flies past the sun, it goes through the million-degree solar corona, and it comes back out the other side in one piece.
Which means we might get to see ISON again, blazing in our skies in December.
Any one of these scenarios is possible, and it may be we get a combination of a couple of them.
The wait is almost over. Just days from now, ISON's fate will be determined. Then we'll all know the final chapter in the life of this incredible comet.
So all eyes are on ISON right now. Everybody's watching. We really want to know what's going to happen to this comet.
I feel like a little kid when these sorts of things happen.
I have a feeling it's going to break up. But when a comet breaks up, it's still spectacular.
If you're able to see this comet and see it in the sky, that's a memory that will live with you forever.
I want huge flare-ups. I want it to be bright and brilliant. If it's going to go out, I really want it to